There are moments in life when everything changes in the blink of an eye. One second you're just living your routine, and the next, your entire reality is shattered, and something far greater is revealed. What I'm about to share with you isn't just a story, it's a personal testimony. I experienced something so powerful, so impossible to explain with logic or science, that I can no longer stay silent. I was a nurse, used to saving lives. I never imagined I'd be the one whose life needed saving. But what I saw, what I lived through, went beyond anything I could have ever imagined. This is my journey to the edge of life, and beyond. And what I discovered on the other side could change the way you see everything. That morning started like any other. July 15th, 2024. I woke up to the soft hues of the rising sun stretching across the sky like painted silk. I remember how the light danced on my bedroom wall. I remember how peaceful it all felt, how safe. As a nurse with over 2 decades of experience in intensive care, I had seen my share of emergencies. But that morning, everything felt unusually calm, too calm. I had my coffee, packed my things, and set off for the hospital. It was my usual 6 a.m. shift at St. Myers Medical. I knew the road like the back of my hand. I could have driven it with my eyes closed. I had done it 1,000 times before. That day, I didn't know I was driving straight into something divine. I checked the time, 5:47 a.m. That moment is burned into my memory. I was calculating if I'd make it to my shift on time. I had no idea that in less than 60 seconds, I'd be pulled out of everything I thought I knew about this world. As I approached an intersection, I noticed the green light ahead. I was just about to go through when I saw it. A truck barreling through the red light. I barely had time to process it before the impact. It struck the driver's side with such force that it crumpled the metal like paper. The noise was deafening, shattering glass, screeching metal, the sound of my world falling apart. I remember the pain. A crushing, searing pain down my left side, so intense it swallowed my thoughts. But more than that, I remember how everything suddenly slowed down. It was as if time stretched itself, giving me a front row seat to my own tragedy. I could see myself from outside the car, almost like I had stepped out of my body. My perspective widened, and in that moment I wasn't sure what was real anymore. I was suspended in a liminal space between panic and peace. Then came the silence. It was eerie, surreal, the kind of silence that speaks louder than any noise. I tasted blood in my mouth. My chest felt like it was collapsing inward. I was slipping. Everything around me faded, and I felt the world moving away from me. And that's when it happened. My heart stopped. I flatlined in the ambulance. They said later it was only for a few moments, but it felt like an eternity to me. It was the moment I stepped into something far greater than this reality. The paramedics fought for my life. I wasn't breathing. My pulse had vanished. My body was broken, ribs shattered, lung punctured, internal bleeding that should have taken me out for good. And yet, something far bigger than me had different plans. That was only the beginning of the journey. I want you to understand something. I shouldn't be here alive telling this story, but I am. Not because of luck or coincidence, because something and someone intervened. In that place between life and death, I saw things that no medical training, no scientific explanation could prepare me for. What I'm going to tell you might sound unbelievable, but I lived it. I felt it. I became it. I'm sharing this not to impress you or convince you of anything. I'm sharing this because you need to know that there is more to this world than what you see. And maybe, just maybe, what happened to me happened so you could hear this right now. If you've ever questioned what happens when we die, if you've ever wondered if angels are real, if heaven exists, or if there's any meaning to our pain, stay with me, because what you're about to hear could answer questions you've carried your whole life. This is not a metaphor. This is a testimony. And it begins here, with a broken body, a stopped heart, and a soul that refused to leave without discovering the truth. I remember the moment everything turned white. There was no sound, no pain, no fear, just a vast stillness that felt like peace. My awareness expanded beyond my body. I could see the ambulance, the medics leaning over me, shouting, pressing on my chest, doing everything to bring me back. But I wasn't inside that body anymore. I hovered above them, watching with a strange sense of detachment. It was like watching a movie I had seen before but couldn't change. I realized I wasn't breathing. My heart had stopped, but I wasn't afraid. Something inside me whispered that I was about to witness something extraordinary. As I drifted higher, the world below began to fade. The hospital lights, the chaos, the rushing sirens, all dissolved into a luminous silence. Then, without warning, I was no longer in the ambulance. I was somewhere else entirely. It was a space without walls or ceiling, filled with a warm, intelligent light that pulsed like a heartbeat. This light wasn't just something I saw, it was something I felt. It wrapped around me with a presence so loving, so overwhelming, it brought tears to my soul. It was not the absence of pain that made this place beautiful. It was the fullness of love that permeated everything. Suddenly, I became aware of other beings around me. Not people, not ghosts. Something far more majestic. They radiated the same kind of light but with individual expressions of wisdom and strength. The first ones I saw were like great wheels of fire and light, turning within each other, covered in thousands of eyes that shimmered like sapphires. I knew, without anyone telling me, that these were not symbols or visions. These were real beings, the Ophanim, and they were alive with purpose. Their movements defied gravity, time, and logic. They spun and pulsed, not with chaos but with deliberate order. They saw everything, and they knew everything. What struck me most wasn't how surreal they were. It was how familiar they felt. Like my soul recognized them from a memory buried deep beyond human understanding. The eyes on the wheels didn't just watch, they communicated. With every rotation, I could feel messages entering my spirit. They didn't speak in words, but in absolute truths that bypassed thought and landed directly into my core. Truths about the universe, about time, about divine justice. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't hallucinating. I was experiencing a reality more real than anything I'd ever known. Then the space around me shifted. A corridor of light opened, created by the synchronized movements of these wheel beings. Through that passage came a sound that moved through me like a river of music and memory. It was the most beautiful harmony I've ever encountered. And within it, I heard voices, countless voices, rising and falling like waves, singing praises in a language not of earth. I was being called deeper, invited further into something sacred, and without hesitation, I stepped forward, guided not by feet, but by trust. That's when I saw the second group, the cherubim, towering, radiant beings with wings that seemed to stretch across dimensions. Each had 4 faces, one human, one lion, one ox, one eagle, and each face carried a different vibration, a different resonance of divine creation. Their wings didn't just flap, they vibrated reality. Their presence made everything around them tremble, not in fear, but in reverence. I understood then, they weren't just guardians, they were embodiments of God's design. They were living reflections of creation itself, in all its power, beauty, and mystery. And then the curtain lifted, or perhaps the veil dissolved, and I saw him, a figure so majestic, so luminous, that all I could do was fall to my knees, not in weakness, but in recognition. It was Jesus. He sat upon a throne that shimmered like living sapphire, surrounded by colors I had never seen before, colors that don't exist in our physical world. His eyes met mine, and in that instant, I knew he saw everything, not just my life, but my thoughts, my pain, my failures, my love. And yet there was no judgment in his gaze, only a depth of love that broke me open and rebuilt me at the same time. He didn't speak with his mouth. His words went straight to my soul. "Elizabeth, my daughter," he said, "you are here to see what few have seen. Do not fear." And with that, I was lifted, not physically, but spiritually, into a journey through what he called the heavenly realm. I saw angels, not as decorations, not as myths, but as living, breathing beings with roles and responsibilities in creation. He showed me how the Ophanim were not just wheels. They were the divine mechanism of time itself. Their turning, their light, their motion, it all held together the movement of heaven and earth. Each angel had a function, a mission, a divine order. They weren't floating aimlessly. They were busy, active, strategic. I saw them move between heaven and earth, delivering messages, adjusting circumstances, protecting people, coordinating divine interventions. And among them were the guardian angels, those assigned to individuals like you and me. They were fierce, not like gentle winged creatures in paintings, but warriors, mighty protectors with eyes full of fire and compassion. I saw them beside hospital beds, in classrooms, in war zones, and even in offices, shielding, guiding, and influencing decisions that would shape lives. He showed me something that shifted everything in me. He showed me the moment of my accident, but from the spiritual perspective. I watched as angels positioned themselves around my car, absorbing the brunt of the impact, minimizing what could have been instant death. In the operating room, other angels guided the surgeon's hands, while some stood guard, fighting back dark forces trying to claim my soul. The Ophanim orchestrated the very flow of time to allow the right people to be in the right place at the right moment. It was a divine symphony, invisible to the human eye, but deeply real. Jesus told me something I will never forget. He said, "My people have forgotten the realm of the Spirit. They either ignore my angels or romanticize them, but they are mighty, strategic, and essential." I understood then why I had to see all of this, why he brought me beyond the veil, not just to witness beauty, but to wake up, to remember that there is more, that the spiritual world is not separate from us. It is intertwined with everything we are and everything we do. And when we forget that, we lose the connection to our divine design. I followed him deeper into realms that defy human language. With every step, though steps didn't exist there, he unveiled more of the divine order. He raised his hand and I saw the angelic armies, not marching in war but operating in absolute harmony, like a living organism of light and purpose. There were angels coordinating natural elements, others protecting nations, others watching over families. They weren't passive beings. They were executing assignments with divine precision. Jesus explained that each angel was designed with intention, perfectly fitted for their task in creation. No one acted out of turn. It was an unbreakable chain of divine coordination. The Ophanim, those radiant wheels of insight, weren't just watchers of time. They controlled it under divine command. Their spinning held the rhythm of events. Their eyes monitored not just actions, but intentions. They saw the hidden motivations of every soul. Their very presence invoked alignment. I saw how their rotations responded to human prayer, turning faster, slower, shifting direction, all in response to the cries of the faithful. I witnessed a man praying in anguish, and a pulse of light rose from his words, connecting instantly with the wheels. The Ophanim adjusted time itself, allowing a divine encounter to occur that would save the man's life. Jesus showed me the seraphim, those closest to his throne. They were unlike anything I could have imagined. Made entirely of living fire and sound, they didn't rest. They worshipped constantly, not with repetition, but with waves of revelation. Every time they cried holy, it was because they saw a new facet of God's glory never revealed before. That one word echoed across the universe with such power that I felt my soul tremble. These beings were not exhausted by their task. They were ignited by it. Their praise held the structure of heaven together. It was not music. It was foundation. Worship as architecture. Then came the revelation of guardian angels. I had heard the term before, even believed it in theory. But now I saw it. These angels didn't hover idly behind people. They walked beside them with swords drawn, eyes alert, hearts aflame. I watched them rescue children from unseen dangers, strengthen mothers as they wept alone, guide elderly men crossing streets, hold teenagers back from fatal decisions. They weren't there by coincidence. They were assigned. And they knew their humans better than anyone else. They carried love, patience, and wisdom, and often pain, from watching people reject the help they longed to give. In one scene, Jesus allowed me to see my own guardian. He had been with me since birth. Every scraped knee, every heartbreak, every close call, he had been there. I remembered moments I had felt a strange peace, a narrow escape, a sudden insight. Now I understood. Those were him. I broke down. I wept. Not out of guilt, but out of awe. How often had I ignored the divine assistance around me? How often had I walked blind to a warrior that walked with me every day? Jesus whispered, "You are never alone. Not for a moment." And that truth rewired everything I believed about my life. Then Jesus shifted the vision again. This time he showed me what happens when people pray. I saw prayers as pulses of light rising from earth to heaven like shooting stars. Each one had a frequency, some bold, some faint, but all real. Angels gathered them, organizing and delivering them like sacred messages. And when the prayers aligned with the will of God, the heavens moved. Chains broke, events shifted, people changed. But I also saw unanswered prayers, not because God didn't hear, but because people gave up too soon. Faith activates the rhythm, Jesus said. Persistence aligns it. The message was clear. Never stop praying. He took me to the edge of something vast, a landscape of destiny. It was as if all possibilities of life existed there in layered dimensions. I saw the path I had walked, the forks I hadn't noticed, the moments angels had redirected me even when I didn't listen. It was breathtaking and humbling. Jesus looked at me and said, "Many live unaware of how involved heaven truly is in their daily lives." I wanted to scream it to the world. I wanted people to know. Not believe blindly, but see what I had seen. I realized then, I wasn't just a witness. I was being prepared to become a messenger. He took my hand, though not in the physical sense, and said, "You must return." I didn't want to. Everything here was light, clarity, truth. Earth felt heavy, dark, limited in comparison. But then I remembered my children, my patience, my purpose. And I knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new assignment. He smiled, and I felt it, not just saw it. You carry my message now. Speak of what you've seen. Remind them, heaven is not far. It is here. It is active, and it loves them more than they know. As I returned to my body, the journey didn't end. It only transformed. I opened my eyes in the ICU 3 days later, surrounded by machines and monitors, but with a heart forever changed. The doctors called it a miracle. They said I shouldn't be alive, much less conscious. But I knew. I knew it wasn't medicine that brought me back. It was divine mercy. It was the presence of angels and the power of Jesus that held me when my heart had stopped and carried me back to this world with a purpose. And now, I'm here to fulfill that purpose, to share what I've seen, so that you may believe. You see, this story isn't just about me. It's about all of us. It's about the world we live in, and the realm we often ignore. Angels are not myths. They're not poetic metaphors or childhood fantasies. They are real, they are near, and they are moving, right now, on your behalf, whether you see them or not. We are not alone in our pain, in our confusion, in our darkest nights. Heaven is not silent. God is not distant. Jesus is still speaking, still healing, still loving, and he's inviting you to open your eyes, not just physically, but spiritually. Maybe you've felt lost. Maybe you've wondered if your prayers even matter. I'm here to tell you they do. Every whisper, every tear, every cry from your soul is heard. The Ophanim are listening, the cherubim are responding, the seraphim are worshiping, and Jesus is closer than your own breath. If you've been searching for a sign, this is it. If you've been waiting for proof, this is your moment. Don't let this pass you by. You were meant to hear this. You were meant to remember who you are and whose you are. So I ask you now, don't just walk away from this testimony unchanged. Make a decision. Say yes to truth. Say yes to love. Say yes to the one who holds the stars and still knows your name. If this message touched your heart, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, not for numbers, but so we can stay connected, so you don't miss the messages that could shape your eternity. And more importantly, follow Jesus, not as a religion, but as a relationship. Start today. Speak to him. Ask him to reveal himself to you like he did for me. There is a realm beyond what you see. There is purpose in your pain. There is order in the chaos. And there are angels, right now, fighting for your life, your peace, your destiny. Will you acknowledge them? Will you live with your heart open, knowing that nothing around you is random? If this story awakened something in you, share it. Be bold. Be light. Send this video to someone who needs to know they are not alone. Let them hear what the world cannot explain but your soul knows is true. And to all of you who stayed with me to the very end, thank you. From the depths of my heart, thank you. You are not just viewers. You are part of something sacred. You're part of this unfolding revelation, this invitation to see with spiritual eyes. Stay connected, stay hungry for truth, and never stop asking questions that lead you closer to the heart of God. This channel exists not just to share stories, but to ignite faith. So stay, grow with us, journey with us. Let's walk this path together. Until next time, may you be surrounded by light, protected by angels, and filled with the peace that surpasses understanding. You are deeply loved. You are never forgotten. And this is just the beginning. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, keep watching, keep praying, and keep your heart open to heaven.